Yo, 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 what up? What up? What's poppin', everybody?
Everyone's happy to have you back after the departure last week. I heard you were in New York City with the fam, which is great. Glad to have you back, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here.
Good to be here. So I ran down on the agenda here. We had 3 topics that we threw up by email. We also have the brand halo effect. Curious where you want to start.
Let's start with let's start with brand halo effect.
Yeah, I like it, man. I feel like we could go on for a while for this. Why don't you get us started for once?
All right. Yeah. So let's talk about brand halo effect. So here's brand halo effect in the context of paid advertising. So most companies sell a product that has a widely known search term. Widely known. So, for example, let's say you sell marketing automation software. You sell marketing automation software. Let's say you're Autopilot HQ, right? And you decide that as a keyword, from a keyword perspective, that the keyword marketing automation is a very important term. It's a very important term to your business. And, it aligns directly to the product and the brand. And it's just an important term, marketing automation, as an exact match. Let's just say that. Now, what's the problem with this? Marketing automation as a search term has so many different intentions behind it. The spectrum of people searching marketing automation as a term could be looking for any number of things. Now, let me show you. I'm going to just share my screen, fuck it, and show you guys the thought process behind why this can be very dangerous from a paid ads perspective. Can you guys see the screen?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you search marketing automation, right? Skip the ads for a second and just go to the organic listings. The organic listings are your best friend. This is when SEO and PPC work together like magic. You have good old Salesforce. What is marketing automation? Okay, what does that tell you? The first result is an informational explainer result. It's not a product. It could be a product page actually because it's Salesforce and they have the domain strength to rank for a product page. But even if it is a product page, it has information about what it is. So whoever is doing their SEO, good job. Now scroll down below that. What do you got? HubSpot. What is marketing automation? Informational page. Marketo. This is probably a product page with information about marketing automation on it because they are a very powerful brand. They can get away with this. Neil Patel, good old Neil Patel, that's our friend. 23 marketing automation tools. What's this? Definition. What's this? Software, but it's an affiliate site. What is? All right. So out of most of the results, it's what is. They want to know what it is. How does it work? So Drip here is taking a gamble. Good old Drip is saying, we know that the giants of the world, like Salesforce, like HubSpot, like Marketo, we're going to go up against them. We're going to pay to skip all them in line. We're going to pay to skip them in the line, even though we don't really know what the intent is. We don't really know. Now let's look at auto suggest. Now here's the thing. When the organic listings are telling you what is, that means it's mostly an informational query. So if you want to bid on that, you are taking a risk. Now let's go to auto suggest. Marketing automation tools, software platforms, definition, specialist, examples. Okay. So I have a pretty good idea of what people could be searching for. The people also ask box tells you really major clues on what the intent is. What is marketing automation used for? What are some of the best softwares? Does Salesforce do it? What are the benefits, right? So it's not as concrete as marketing automation software for real estate. Then that would be very different. But let me just go back to marketing automation. I didn't even say software yet. Marketing automation. And let me just click Drip. Let's click on this. Cost them some money.
That was like $38 for that click, by the way.
Yeah, and I'm not going to buy. So if anyone's from Drip, sorry, I owe you $38. I don't know what to tell you. But you're getting free promotion here. So
yeah, exactly.
Shouldn't be complaining. So how does this all work? They are trying to get you to sign up for a free trial. They have some social proof here, which is nice. Pretty nice landing page. Shows you some of the stuff they can do. But the problem is, people are going to click on this just kind of researching about marketing automation, and they're not going to sign up for a free trial, and they're not going to buy. They might later, but they probably won't. So now what happens? Now I'll stop sharing my screen. Now that you guys can kind of see how all this works, now this will make a lot more sense. You might have a paid ads marketer that says, we don't really have an attribution system in place like Visible that's going to, allegedly track every touch point. We don't know if they're going to convert or get into a trial or when, but we know because this keyword is important to the brand, we're going to pay for brand. We're going to pay for brand with that. Now, that's an expensive keyword. And when you go into your ad group performance and your CFO asks you, how's that marketing automation, ad group bucket doing? And you say, well, our cost per acquisition is like $800, but there's a lot of conversions in there that can't be tracked. That's a tough conversation to have. So that's where I'll bring it to you, Chris, so you can kind of weigh in and help unpack this a little bit more. But we always talk about do things in marketing that can't be tracked. This is one of those situations where you're doing something in marketing that can't be tracked, which actually could be very bad. It could be very dangerous. You may not want to bid on marketing automation for an educational click. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. I have several thoughts on here. The first one is I do not bid on high volume mixed intent terms because it's going to be very expensive. I don't know what the search volume is on that. It's probably at least 50K a month. It probably is a lot higher. And that is a dangerous place to be in the first position on a term that does not have buying intent unless you are ready to throw a lot of money down the drain. And so
yeah,
that's the first step.
So follow-up question to that is, and you're absolutely right. Now, what if the volume was much lower, but it was still one of those mixed bags where it might drive some stuff, but the majority of it is just going to be, searching around to learn about what it is, how it works, education. Would you still do it or would you not?
There's two schools of thought here. I think it depends on your ACV and a couple different things, but the answer can be either I only bid on high intent things with a modifier like software or pricing or vendor or company. That's one option, which is the option I typically lean towards. The other option is to run it for 60 days on a budget of, grab 100, whatever it is, somewhere between 30 and 100 conversions and see what they do in the funnel and then decide. But your CPA will be higher, but your CAC will be significantly higher when you go on those terms. And so I tend to stay away from them, but I think it's worth putting in for people that if you're selling certain types of products that are really expensive and it's $15 a click, it might be worth it.
Right on. So let's talk about that scenario. Let's say the cost per clicks are not super expensive. Let's say they're like $20 a click, and you're selling a product that typically, has a $40K price tag to it. Mm-hmm. In that scenario, would you kind of just manage up to the CFO expectations wise and say, look, here's one of those kind of alleged bleeders, where from a pure front end metric standpoint, it's not going to look great, but we know that, fighting for mind share is important. The upside could even, it could even itself out, even if we get enough clicks to where only one deal closes and it looks horrible on the front end, it was still worth it because our product is so expensive to make up for the bleed. How do you feel about that?
I think the option is, what else could you potentially do with that amount of money, which is probably high, that might work better? And so we typically here's an example. We started working with a company. They were spending $70,000 a month on AdWords. They had certain results. They were bidding on broad match keywords to ebook downloads predominantly on Marketo landing pages. We went in, we took the budget from 70 to currently spending $8,000 a month and get better results on demo volume, SQOs, revenue, and CAC with 80% of the budget, 90% of the budget saved, which then gets moved to Facebook and LinkedIn. And from once you have, like, the core is the work needs to be profitable before you scale it. If it's not working at 10K, it's not going to work at 250K. It's going to get worse, not better. And so make it work, and then start adding, if you want to start making expansions, like add new modifiers. If you want to go and do the experiment with the other, mixed intent terms, go ahead and do that. But that's the way that I like to think about it. And meanwhile, we're getting pressure on why we're not spending as much. And it's like, we're spending at the level that is profitable. And that's what you should do on AdWords, because most companies do not run AdWords profitably. Most companies bleed 24 month CAC payback plus, and they don't even know it.
I mean, I agree with everything you said, brother. I love the way you kind of unpacked that, laid it all out there. I think we're very much in agreement on that. And that's why Google is as successful as they are, because, most people don't know how to run profitable AdWords campaigns. It's not easy. We say it up here.
It's really not. That's
I don't know many people who are running profitable. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
Even myself, I'll be the first to admit, there's a ton of shit we got to do to improve at Nextiva. We're not perfect, but at least we know we ain't perfect. I think the danger is when you think you're doing great and you actually suck. That's when it gets tricky.
And the key is knowing how much you should be spending. And I think the best way to do that is to stay very narrow and high intent terms, make sure it works, and then go from there. Because it's when you're spending $150,000 a month or whatever, it's a lot harder to figure out where to go without starting over, essentially. Cool. Side note on the brand halo effect, because I actually have I define it in a different way, which is that the impact of the brand marketing executions eventually drive down to more business results. It's almost difficult for me to explain. I'm going to try and think of an example for you, like the stuff that the employees at Gong are doing on LinkedIn is creating the brand halo effect for Gong, which drives more people in, more word of mouth, more customers telling other people. It is a cycle of stuff that creates a lot of inbound opportunity that's not trackable. You can do that through brand marketing, like we're creating it on a smaller scale through some of the stuff that we're doing. And so that's how I define it, is that you almost have through more awareness, you drive more inbounds for free.
Absolutely. I mean, Gong, I don't think anyone's doing it as good as them.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. I mean, in almost every company I talk to, that's like, how do we build more of a here's one you're going to love. Someone asked me, I think this even came up on Demand Gen Live once, but someone asked me, what do you think of those tools about employee advocacy? Where,
oh yeah, we talked about this.
And that's what most, sadly, that's what most corporate executives think. They default to this employee. You need an employee advocacy platform.
Which is laughable.
Where, it creates this repository of shareable content for sales reps. Now, let's work backwards from what is the problem that it's trying to solve for. The problem is that sales reps don't know what to post on LinkedIn. They want to get content streaming. They want to get engagement. They want to just start getting things going. They don't know what to do. So then the problem then becomes, hey, marketing, help us. What does hey, marketing say? Well, let's just get them a tool, which is just going to be a repository of a list of links. Now, why is that so horrible? Well, everyone knows if you just share links all day, nothing happens. So you pay for this tool that would just give you a bunch of content to share. And
tell you how to do it wrong.
Yeah, tell you how to do it wrong. You go and do it, nothing happens. Then even worse, everyone's posting the same shit.
Mhm.
How widely vast could that repository of content be for a team of 40 sales reps? There's probably going to be, news and industry trends, blog articles, maybe some video content. But there's going to be a good chance that 7, 8, 9, 10 reps are just going to be lazy, pick the first couple of things they see, and what does this all stem from? It stems from no one wants to do the real work to build a personal brand the right way.
I was just going to say that. Nope. That the tool was meant to make it easy when it's not. Like, it just isn't.
Yeah. And it's the same thing when sales teams are like, hey, let's look at our closed lost deals. We want to do win back campaigns, and we want to get them to come back. We want to repatriate, reactivate. We want to get them to come back.
How about, I've seen a lot of companies do this where there's not only a closed lost bucket in Salesforce, there's also one after that that's nurture. It's like, it's closed lost. It's closed lost, set a property for whatever to follow up or a task, but if it's in nurture, it's lost.
Well,
just so you can, it's just an organizational mechanism,
It's just exactly. But like, my thing is like, how many reps do you know that once they lose a deal, they go through the effort of filling out that record of the reason why they lost the deal? If they lost it to a competitor, who, if it was because of a feature, capability gap, what was that? And then pass that feedback back to product or whatever. Like what most sales reps do once they lose the deal, they just, oh, well, I lost the deal.
Let's stay on the topic of the, whatever you call it, the engagement platform, or what is it called again?
The employee advocacy.
Yeah, the employee advocacy program.
I don't know why they called it that.
Let's dive a little bit deeper into this, because the core reason that you would need that platform is that you don't want to put in the effort in order to do it the right way. And the reason that you don't want to put in the effort to do it the right way is because you have a bunch of other stuff that you need to do, like make calls and do a bunch of demos and do all these other things. So in reality, it comes down to prioritization. And for most people, and most companies for that matter, the reason that LinkedIn doesn't work is because you're not focused on it. It's because you spend 1% of your time on it. And I say this a lot, like every $30 to $100 million company that is focused on LinkedIn and thought leadership could throw out most of the stuff that they're doing that has absolutely no impact and put 3 people on LinkedIn and get way better results. They could, but they don't.
I mean, yeah, you're much better off taking like the 3 most senior people in your company and just building a content strategy around them.
Love it. So this is actually a perfect segue. And so you might have seen about my LinkedIn post. I think it was, today's Tuesday, so it must have been last week, that started with the line that said, outsourcing your content to an agency is a bad strategy. And it got a lot of engagement. It also got a lot of pushback in the comments, and I respect the comments. I use them to learn. I don't get offended by them. And I think there was a lot of interesting insights in there. And so some of them I think had to do with that I didn't have enough room to communicate my point of view on why I think they shouldn't. And so we can use this beautiful time that we have together to unpack it. So I want to get you started on, actually, let me break it down just for a little bit more context. So my thesis on this is that you can outsource everything but the thoughts. You need to have the ideas. You need to be the expert. You cannot say, we're in the energy sector. We're selling to whatever companies that create energy. I don't even know what they're called. And we just want this agency that's verticalized on energy to write our shit for us, because we don't want to build it in-house. We don't want to do it. Our subject matter experts are PhDs, and they're expensive, and they are way too busy to ever create a video or a blog post or anything. And so we can't use them. So let's just give it to these people that don't really know what they're talking about. That's the problem. And if you really look down into the root, the reason why I think it's a bad strategy is because it's a crutch and it puts you behind, because you need to know how to do these things to be successful in the future. So the longer that you wait to build a content engine in-house, then the longer and further behind you're going to be from somebody else that does it before you. And so that is the thesis. Yes, if I sat on here and I talked for an hour and we had this video, someone else on my team can do everything else. They can edit it. They can put it on the podcast. They can paraphrase what I said and write a blog post. They could do all of those different things, but the thoughts need to come from the company, not an external. That's my feeling on it.
I mean, absolutely right. Let's take voice over IP. That's a complex subject. That's not easy to produce content on. We can't outsource it. It's too technical. It doesn't work. We can, like you said, the thought, right? So let's say, I don't know, let's say we wanted to do like an article like written by or authored by our CIO. Does our CIO have time to actually write an article? Probably not. Would he have time to do an interview with somebody from the marketing team that could lay out a post for him? Then he could edit it, put his voice on it, say, this is something I would say, this is not something I would say, get his sign off on the final language and the final, article or whatever it is that you're trying to produce, and then get that out there? Yeah. But if you're going to do all that, then why not just create videos with your top people anyway? Because they're, if you're going to do interviews, you might as well just record them and put them out there.
Yep.
And then you can use like natural language processing to, transcribe everything. And then you have like basically a podcast where it's more authentic anyway. So, that's one aspect to it. I think, if you think about a lot of SEO content, especially top of funnel SEO content, like what is marketing automation, that example we saw before, a lot of that stuff is just, ripped off, used and abused and recycled and regurgitated, because there's nothing really proprietary about any of it. It's not like, imagine this concept, advantages and disadvantages of voice over IP. That's pretty tough. You're not going to be able to just make that up on the fly. But something like what is marketing automation? Yeah, you could probably have some freelance writer just research what all the other companies have written, combine it, reshape it, reword shit so that it's not plagiarized. And yeah, there you go. Voila. You have now a Frankenstein of what all the other things are that are out there, just combined and compiled into your new Frankenstein. And that's why a lot of the SEO content is not that exciting, because it's just all copied and it's all meant to just serve engines and robots and not people. So that's where it's all at for me.
I think the key I know that there are people on this listening to this right now that want to create content, that are not the SME inside of their company and need to leverage the SME, and the SME doesn't think that it's worth their time, or someone at the company doesn't think that it's worth their time. I know, because I've worked at companies where the PhD SME says, I don't have time to do that. And what I've learned is that it's our job as marketers, if we are in that position, which many people will be, is to make it as easy as for them as possible. And the way that I've decided that would be a good way to frame it up is, how excited would your SME be if they were speaking at a conference in front of 500 people? If they got to prepare and get up and present all of their thoughts, which are leading thoughts, to a bunch of people that are target customers or prospective customers or current customers, they would be thrilled. And so how about we position it that way and architect it in a way that we can do that? And so if that's kind of like the ego boost that we need for someone to get over it, then let's set up some type of webinar or whatever and have them deliver some information. The other idea would be to reach out to a bunch of people and have them be guests on podcasts that they would want to be excited to do. The third one could be just interviewing them internally. The fourth one could be them chopping it up with your top 5 customers. There's so many different options, but break down, basically do everything except for they need to show up and talk, and then handle everything afterwards, and then edit all of it, and then give them 20 videos and even suggest things to write. I'm half on that one because I really think that people should write it themselves, but like bullet point ideas, topics to get them started, like remove friction at all costs. And if you can get them over the hump where they see that when they put out content and they get 15 comments from people that they respect, that also respect their points of view, then they start getting excited about it and they realize the stuff that they were doing before might not have been the most important thing they could do. But you need to get them to a place where they see it. And so that's what I've been seeing. That would be my recommendation. And yeah, you can outsource someone to help you through that process, but you can't outsource the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, nothing more to add. My final, thought on this is still don't do it, but that's just me.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Yeah,
I think it's a healthy debate. Okay, cool. So we'll take a little pause here. Any questions? I've seen a couple come through here. We got a little bit more on the agenda. Gaetano and I are rolling. We met before. We're feeling good. So we'll just keep going, and then if someone's scanning through the questions, we'll pick a couple as we go through, but feel free to drop them in. I think we'll have a bunch of time. Cool. So the next one, which we have talked about in like different spurts, but haven't, I don't think we have really gotten to it, which is correlation versus causation. When to trust your gut and when to trust the data.
right on.
Really, really interesting.
Yeah. There's a famous SEO example for this, so we could start with and then riff into others. But so the idea is the number one ranking result should ideally have a lot of backlinks. Now, does it have a lot of backlinks because it's number one and because it's been there so many times, it's just gotten linked to naturally? Or did you have to go through this process of manually building a lot of links in order to get it to rank number one? So, that kind of chicken or the egg situation is where a lot of SEOs will say, well, just because there's a correlation of this page having a lot of backlinks is not the cause of it being number one. So that is kind of a case-by-case basis where it's possible sometimes to rank number one for easier terms without any backlinks. But it's also known that for difficult terms, you're not going to be able to rank number one without any backlinks. So that's like one of the big ones that like always comes up in the realm of SEO, just to kind of kick this off. But I don't know if you had a more robust example that you wanted to unpack.
I mean, I don't really have a robust example, but we can kind of like dig into it together. Yeah. And so the first time where I like saw this was in 2016. And we were running $5,000 a month in Facebook ads and $7,000 a month in AdWords. And a couple deals started to come in that were substantial and short sales cycles. And like there was direct attribution. And all of a sudden they were like, let's open the floodgates. We have a big thing coming out. Let's do a big promotion in Q1. And so we started letting it rip for like 50 or 75K a month, purely on Facebook ads, job title targeted. And you could target companies back then. You could literally target like a specific company and all the employees that were listed there. You could do it until that, whatever the breach happened. And then in like 2018, you couldn't. And I start pumping money into it also with audience expansion, which I think is amazing when you have the pixel data. And all of a sudden more spend on the only thing that changed, more spend on Facebook, dramatically more. And what happened? Way more inbounds. And you just like when the system is pretty simple and you see it, you're like, this makes sense. I'm pulling all the levers and I just pulled this one and we just hit gold. And now I go into companies and I run a similar process, and demo requests go from 28 a month to 64 a month, or 92 a month to 131 a month. And they don't see it the way that I see it, because I saw it in a big way. And so I can connect the dots, but most other people have struggled with the lack of attribution, direct attribution, and the lack of even the view through or click through conversion metrics inside of Facebook we're continuing to do tests for more complex deals. It is not that clear. Like, you have a 28-day attribution window and they need to be on the same, login and all these different things. It's just like, it's hard. And so that's where I've seen the correlation that was just so clear that a lot of people don't pick up on. And in general, it's funny when you think about what does data mean? Like, if somebody said, "Hey, Gaetano, I've been listening to this podcast, love you, would love to, think about whether or not we could, have you help with our SEO on this coming Saturday for like a $5,000 project." Is that enough data to say that the podcast is working? Those are some of the, like, people are looking for like direct quantitative data inside of Salesforce. There's data happening everywhere. It's just qualitative.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is another one we talk about quite a lot. The Ahrefs example of this is very famous, where they were doing podcast sponsored ads, sponsorships, and they didn't know if it was working or not. Then he was walking around at a conference and someone said, "Hey, you're from Ahrefs. Yeah, I heard about you on the Tim Ferriss show," or whatever. I mean, they didn't advertise on Tim Ferriss, but it was something like that. The Pat Flynn one, whatever that one is. And they're like, yeah, no, we became customers after, hearing about you on the podcast. And then he was like, "Oh, well, if one person did, then I'm sure many others did." So they just kept, quote unquote, blindly investing into podcast ads just because it was one of those things that like intuitively felt right. It's another thing. Like when it comes to like producing the organic flywheel, like the marketing flywheel of the organic side, which is keyword research, content strategy, content development, publish, content promotion, build backlinks, social promotion, and then over time, getting influencers involved, email. Over time, that flywheel effect just amplifies and amplifies and amplifies. It's kind of like a snowball that's just picking up more and more and more steam over time. Now, people don't read blog content and buy shit right away, but I still make that a fundamental part of every single marketing program that I deploy within a company, just because I know that from doing it at Sales Hacker, it led to all these great things happening. Even though it was really hard to quantify what was the ROI of producing that guide that ranked #1 for cold calling tips, other than email list signups. So that is one of those things where like certain marketers just have fundamental beliefs based on their experience, based on, what they just know intuitively is kind of like the right thing to be doing. And even though there may not always be this like immediate ROI in terms of revenue from some of these things, like look at HubSpot. It was their goal to be like the biggest educational source of marketing and sales content out there in B2B. And look what that's done for them. So, we can keep riffing on it, but that's just where I'm at.
Yeah, cool. So we got one other topic, but I'm thinking we just dive into some questions. We knock a couple out, and then if we get back to that topic, we can, because we got a couple good ones here. The first one from Elaine, I can get this answered real quick. So Elaine, the question is, do you not create content for your clients at Refine Labs? And Elaine, the answer is no. We do not create the content. We provide a framework and templates and guidance and consulting and strategy about what content to create. If we're going to run a case study on Facebook ads, what it should look like, how long it should be, where the CTA should be on mobile. Those are the things that we advise on. But again, it just comes back to the idea of we don't create their thoughts for them. Those come internally. We can guide them, but in terms of the actual content creation, that is a no. Post-production, sure, we do post-production. And I think that is actually for a lot of companies, a smart thing to outsource. until you get to a level where the volume is so substantial where speed and cost become a barrier, I think outsourcing is a smart thing, and that's a long way away for most people. You find a question? Did you find one?
Question for me to answer specifically?
I thought you were looking through here. I'm happy to answer this. So, cool. We got a really basic one
Okay.
from Uma. So you and I can go back and forth on this. I think this will be beneficial for everyone to go. We'll answer it in a basic way, and then maybe we can go a little bit deeper, which is, what is CAC? And I'm laughing, but I swear it's not. It's not in a negative way. I just think it's a funny question to read. And so CAC stands for customer acquisition cost. And in recurring revenue model businesses, it's a critical metric, because in recurring revenue model businesses, you essentially lose money until you've recouped the amount of money to acquire the customer, which can take ideally months, but for some venture companies can take years. And if you're not able to retain that customer for as long as it costs you to acquire them, you lose money for every customer that you have. And that's a problem. You got anything? There's a lot to go on this one. It's wide open.
Yeah, I mean, this one's pretty wide open. I mean, it's so broad. Like, I don't even know what aspect exactly to attack from the question, but I mean, it's basically everything you said, Chris. It's just mapping out the total amount spent on marketing to acquire a customer, and then look at what it takes to make your money back and decide if you're profitable. I mean, it's in its most basic form. That's what it is. I really don't know like how else to elaborate on it.
Yeah,
that.
That's cool.
You know, I mean, maybe we can get into like, how do you do that? First of all, there's this concept of like breaking it down by channel or by source. And then there's this other concept of like a lot of software companies look at this blended CAC metric. So paid and organic combined, what is that like? But the reality is, you know, organic CAC is always going to be low. It's always going to be really low, because all you're really accounting for is like the software that you're using to do the keyword research. That kind of cost is marketing spend. You're not really running any ads. Headcount, if you want to do it that way,
you should.
Exactly. So headcount, you know, any freelance designers that you've used to like create like the, you know, the graphics for the feature image, or the landing page design, however you want to do that. And then try to look at, you know, how many leads you get coming in every month as that thing grows and gets more traffic. I mean, you can start doing it that way. Start looking at an aggregate of all like your organic landing pages combined, and try to, you know, do CAC versus lifetime value of a customer that way. That's always going to be really favorable, but it takes a long time to get that going. And then on the ad side, it's, you know, it's pretty cut and dry.
If you're running direct response, it's pretty cut and dry. Cool. So Jess, do you mind hopping on here? I think this is an interesting question. We'd love if we could do a little back and forth. If you want to come on and ask your question. It's about it starts with, I'm not an SME for what we sell.
Sure. My internet's a bit crappy, so we'll see how we go. We do stuff for aged care, so people working with the elderly, and we do online training for them. So it's more sort of talking to the HR and the people. So finding out more about what the pain points are for aged workers is kind of where the ICP is, which is not my cup of tea. That's I do more around, you know, marketing. So to me, to make little connections on LinkedIn with aged care people doesn't really make sense.
Cool. Yeah, I think I have the root of the question, so I'll get this. I'll get this one started a little bit. So my good friend Justin Welsh talks a lot about this on the sales side, which is that a sales rep that's selling a product shouldn't tie their personal brand to a company. because the average tenure for a rep is 2 years, and they're going to have to go to another company, and then all that work is lost unless you plan on sticking in one place for a long time, which I understand. I think there are different viewpoints on how to do that, but it sort of goes into what you're saying. Like, you're in marketing. Does it make sense for you to be producing content for the senior care people? And so I don't think that is the right move for you to do it. Here's what I would suggest. And I kind of heard two things. So one seemed like there was some amount of customer research that had to go on. And then there was another one, which is thought leadership, if I understood that correctly. I think you really need to split those into two separate things, because they really are two separate activities. The customer research one, I would just go out and talk to people, and you can do that. And then you don't have to get cloudy with the content creation side of it. You can do both at once, but it just sort of makes it a little bit more complicated. And then on the thought leadership side, right now, people feel like they must do it through a personal profile. I don't think that to be true. I think that if you did it well, you could do it through a company page. I also think that if you had an executive that had a significant financial stake in the business, that those would be the two paths that I took. But the executive should be an SME. And so, like, the benefit of always using an SME is that they're an expert in that topic, and they're probably going to continue to be an expert in that topic for a long time. So they're comfortable putting a stake in the ground that I am a CFO. I'm going to be a CFO for a long time. I'm comfortable putting my points of view out here and building a brand around that one. And so those are some of the thoughts, but I would find the SME, sometimes the SME is the executive with the financial stake in the business. And that is when it all kind of like works out really well. And then I would really challenge you to think about how you could architect it through a company page as well.
Yeah, but we're doing stuff for company page at the moment. And then if I can get some of those execs in the company to do the LinkedIn rather than it being me to the aged care.
Mm-hmm. G, you got anything on this one?
Dude, I think you definitely had a comprehensive answer. Not really much more to add.
Right on. Thanks, Jess. Appreciate you. Okay.
There's a good one here from Max. He sent it to me privately, actually, but he might have meant to send it to everyone. But it's essentially like, let's do a mini. He's essentially asking us to do a mini teardown on HubSpot's marketing strategy. What made them so successful? What specifically did they do well? How did they go about doing it? I don't know if Demand Gen Live is even.
I have a weird take on this one.
I have a weird take on it too. I'm curious to let you go first, and then I'll throw my hat into the ring.
My take on this one is, yes, HubSpot has come a long way and been very successful, but they haven't been as successful as they should have been so far. They have stayed very committed to the SEO strategy, have done, in my view, a very good job taking advantage of all of the other things that have happened since they started their company in 2009 or whatever. I feel like their marketing hasn't evolved. I feel like if they had marketed more effectively over the past decade, instead of relying proactively, waiting reactively for search, that the market perception would not be that if you are an enterprise company, you must use Marketo. That is the root of why they're losing. Like, if there are a lot of $100 million companies that are better suited to use HubSpot than Marketo, but none of them do, because HubSpot has not communicated effectively with the market to change their perception of that. And that perception started in 2007, and they've had 13 years to change the way the market views them. And they're still viewed as the SMB marketing automation and CRM for companies that are not complex. And I think they really lost there. I think they're picking up ground right now as their product evolves, but it's been far slower than I think it should have been.
Yeah, I mean, that is a super valid point. I'm gonna share my screen and just, hit you with something real quick that is gonna put all that into like some perspective. Like, yes, while all that is absolutely true, there's no disputing this, that they are absolutely on fire from
for
a
sure.
growth standpoint. Almost 13 billion market
If you
cap,
put
right?
that out to like a 5-year, it's going to be even better.
Yeah.
And so like I understand that they have done very well. I live in Boston. I'm a HubSpot user and advocate because I think it's just, for in most use cases, just a better tool for the companies that we work with. And I love the way that their executive team approaches things, but I think that they missed an opportunity to do more. And the data point that I see is that I talk to a lot of CMOs and directors of demand gen at companies that span a lot of different sizes. And when you get to a certain level, most companies write off HubSpot because it's for SMB. And I just think that is a market communication issue.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you want to talk about inbound plateau. I mean, I don't know if it gets any better than this. I don't know any companies that are generating, let's see, ranking for over 1 million organic keywords. This is all like demand gen oriented stuff with, a traffic cost of like $17 million a month in traffic. I mean, I don't know how much greater you can grow this. So, Chris, to your point of like, yeah, they've kind of been written off as the small ball with their freemium model, inbound self-service option, and their inability to scale among the enterprise, inability to get people that are locked into Pardot and Marketo contracts to quit and jump over to HubSpot. You just don't really see it happening that much, and that, like you said, is a market communication issue.
And the happy marketing ops team and the CMO at the $30 million company are not searching for stuff in looking for HubSpot. I'm sure that there are edge cases where they're doing it, but like I feel like in order to change that perception, you cannot just wait for people to come search you. You have to go and get them and change their perception. And that's the only thing. Like, I am the target customer of HubSpot. Haven't seen a Facebook or LinkedIn ad from them in so long. And it's a lot of people from that are in SEO. Gaetano, I'd love your feedback on this, but a lot of people in SEO are romantic about the idea of organic. Like, creating content for organic costs money too. And so, yeah.
I mean, look at this. This is a good one, right? So I was curious to see like, what are the most commercially expensive keywords that HubSpot ranks for? And I sorted in SEMrush by highest CPC to lowest. And now I'm looking through the position. So actually what I'm going to do is go to filter by positions, and I'm going to go to top, let's just go top 10 positions only, and then sort by most expensive. And we'll see in terms of the most expensive to cheapest, how do they do?
I like this.
So this is actually going to show you, like, is most of it just, kind of that top of funnel fluff stuff, or is there anything juicy in here? So
is that $1,000 for what is Google Docs for?
Yeah. How nuts. Let me make this a little bigger. But yeah, so $1,000 for what is Google Docs for? They're in position 9 for that. Let's see. All right, position 2, Google Docs features, $927 a click.
This can't be right.
I mean, it could be, but I don't know who would bid against Google in Google. That's just foolish. But I mean, they do content like this: 21 Google Doc features that you never knew existed. Like, it took a lot of time to produce this.
Yeah.
All because they know a lot of marketers use Google Docs, and they want you to learn about how to use Google Docs on their site. And they want you to subscribe here, and then they're going to nurture you to death. And I mean, it's the classic inbound.
It's true. And I mean, I respect the fact that they preach it and they do it. So like, I respect anyone that tells people what to do and then does the same thing that they tell people what to do and have success with it. I think that's good.
Yeah. So this one, check this out. So this is a long tail one. They rank position 3, how to prioritize accounts and sales. So they produced content on prioritizing your prospect list, and then they ranked for a bunch of long tail within that. But fairly thin content. This is old. So that's the other part of SEO that's tricky too. I'll stop sharing my screen now. Maybe we could just close it out with this topic on this note. But when you have a lot of content like that, it's actually, Chris, we never talked about this, but the cost of maintaining and updating and refreshing, that's expensive.
Yep. Organic's free. No, it's not.
It's not necessarily. I mean, it's cheaper than ads, but you have a responsibility every year of refreshing, updating, playing defense, like maintaining that. Once you get it, is a lot of work. And that is one of those things too that is almost never talked about.
Cool. We got a couple. If you got time, I'd love to run through and hit as many questions as we got. We have our largest audience ever. So that is great. Grateful for all of you. Thank you. Chris Carolyn has a question here. How much less relevant is CAC for high cost equipment that might last 10 or 20 years? And so, Chris, the way that I look at this is that it costs you some amount of money to acquire a customer right now. It's just mostly probably for that type of company in sales expenses, not in marketing expenses. That's how most hardware one-time purchases like this do not invest in marketing because they think it eats into their margins. We are going to sell this much stuff. And so if we want to, afford this $8,000 a month in ads, then we're going to need to sell this many other things. But what they don't realize is that if the efficiency of the marketing is greater than the efficiency of the sales channel, then it actually reduces everything overall by increasing the productivity of your reps. And so most companies like this don't look at it at that granularity. And then if they actually measured it, they would see that their CAC from the sales expense of what they're doing today is probably 2 to 3x higher than if they had gone through a marketing channel in the future. And so I think the benefit would be to look at it in granularity to help executives try and invest in marketing. That's what I would do.
Yeah. I mean, nothing more to add to that. I think you nailed it, brother.
Cool. We got some people that own HubSpot stock. Let's see if we can drive through here. I'm going to find one more for you, and then questions are done. So if you're cool, we did have one more on the agenda. We can catch that next week.
Yeah.
We can catch that one next week. We talk about paid social a lot in here. Anything else you want to get in? We got a little bit of time. We're jamming. We got a really attentive, happy, awesome crowd. Anything on your mind?
I think we could probably we've talked about, I feel like a lot of the stuff we talk about now, we're talking about a lot, but the one I posted today about, the LinkedIn ads.
It was a promise. I think you promised that we would talk about a better way. So we better get it in.
That's true. Yeah. So that's right. So here's the deal. You are a company that has, let's say, invested a lot historically into Google ads, and you've seen some wins there. And you have inbound performing decently. You have a good mix of inbound and outbound channels. So you're trying to really get this omni-channel revenue engine going, this omni-channel demand gen engine going. Through your own testing, you've realized that Facebook ads are only going to be good for just brand. It's not going to be a great acquisition channel because the product that you sell is very expensive and it's more enterprise. Twitter, non-factor. And you now have come to the realization that, okay, LinkedIn is a massive untapped opportunity. We haven't necessarily done it well, but because this month in particular, August, we're behind and we need fast results. We need fast pipeline because our reps are starving. We need to hit our number. So, hey, marketing, get us some leads. We need help. Right. So there's this joke too that we have at Nextiva where we say, hey, marketing, that's great and all, but we need one more lead. We just need one more. Yeah. Oh yeah. You guys delivered like more than ever before this month. It was the record month, but yeah, we still need one more. But anyway, so imagine this scenario. Your sales leader comes to you and says, we're down. We need something. And you, maybe have a brainstorm with your team, and we say, hey guys, we know the only channel that we really haven't tapped into as hard as we could is LinkedIn, and we need fast results. So what does everyone say? I know what to do. We can get native lead forms going on LinkedIn. There's a number of different ways to craft or kind of shape the targeting that you want. You can do it based on a number of different criteria, whatever works for you and your industry. Great. And then what do you do? Ebooks. Yes. Ebooks.
We already have a couple ebooks that we published in 2018.
Exactly.
So we will never need to we won't even need to do anything. We can just slap the ad on and go because we need to do it fast. Okay?
Exactly. And why does this happen? Oh, this is the part right here, dude. This is it. Why does that happen? Because a lot of companies look at their funnel in a very linear way. They say, well, in order to predict what's going to come in terms of, AEs in the evaluation stage or the solution building stage where you're getting ready to create a proposal and hand that off to your prospect and get them into a real proposal stage. The only way we're going to be able to have a predictability for that is if we can see what's coming in from the top. We need more raw leads, and we need to get them to become more marketing qualified leads. What we actually need is more MQLs so that we can have predictability into what will eventually become an SQL, and which will eventually become, a prospect that gets presented with a contract at some point. And why this is a, very troubling thing is that it creates bad behaviors. It creates marketing teams say, yes, if we just run ebook leads, ebook ads to forums and LinkedIn from an ebook we already had before. And in fact, the creative is still the same as it was back in 2018. We just repurposed that. We can get it going tomorrow. Fast. That's what we need. We need speed. We can get it going tomorrow. So then what happens? You go and you set up these ads, and you pick your audience, you pop in your creative, you write your little ad copy, and yeah, they go to the forum. It says learn more. And when you click learn more, it has all your information already pre-filled in the fields. It has your name, it has your job title, it has your email, it has your company, it has your all that, right? And what did I do today when someone asked me about this? I actually showed them, let's go through the feed real quick. Let's just go through the feed. Let's just go through it. Within 5 minutes, company A doing that, company B doing that, company C doing that. So this is the way LinkedIn does it. They put some engaging, cool, popular content like yours in the mix, and then they sprinkle in those little boring, you skip right over it.
Where they make a ton of ad revenue.
They make a ton of ad revenue. And the crazy thing is, most people filter that shit out. It's like the commercials that you're watching when you recorded your shows back in the day when you had that thing. Remember, Chris, we used to laugh about this, like the TiVo device where you could record it, skip the commercials. Your brain now in the social media feed does this automatically. Everything just blends in. You're looking for Chris Walker's content. You're not looking for what company was it? I don't even want to diss them or anything, but it was just some company that was like doing the same old stale tactic. And my brain actually was skipping over them. And then I stopped and paused and bring them back up just to make a point. But it was like, wow, they're all doing this. There was like 10 companies in a row, all doing the same exact playbook, other than one company. There was only one company doing something different. And even theirs was kind of shitty. I don't know what you think about this, but they brought you actually to an informational landing page, which actually provided a lot of value. It, explained how everything works, the features. It was a nice informational landing page that you could also convert on. So it wasn't this like, hey, we're forcing you to give up your information if you want this shitty ass gated content that is going to guaranteed suck. You know, it was actually a pretty solid landing page that allowed you to explore the whole thing, consume it in its entirety. And then only if you felt compelled to, you know, submit your information for a follow-up for more, you know, a further information request, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot to unpack, but that's just the reality. Everyone's doing the same thing because it's easy and it's the lazy thing to do. And you should never be making decisions based on, we have to hit our number now. That's a horrible thing to like have a marketing strategy like predicated upon, is like, what can we do to hit our number like by the end of this month? And and it's like, what's it now already? It's like August 20th and there's only like 10 business days left in the month. And you know,
all you're doing is creating metrics to pretend like you're doing something.
Right.
That's it. An interesting thing, and I'm going to kind of like quote you on this one, is that when everyone else zigs, you're supposed to zag.
You zag. When everybody zigs, you zag. That's right.
And so when, like, I've audited somewhere between 15 and 20 SaaS companies this year, inside their Salesforce, inside their Marketo, inside of HubSpot, inside of all the ad platforms. They all do the exact same stuff. The playbook is the same. It is time to change it. It is LinkedIn content or demo, direct response, lead gen. I know, because I've looked at 20 companies, I know what those leads convert to customers at. I know that it is around 0.1%. I've seen it at enough companies to know that. And so when you think about it, if you have an ebook content download that you're paying $50 for and they're closing at 0.1% with a sales cadence behind them, just your advertising CAC is $50K. Just the advertising CAC, not the actual marketing headcount, not the SDR headcount, not the sales compensation. It is extraordinary. On the flip side, if you look at your demo conversion, those things are going to convert somewhere between 5 and 15%. Organic last touch attribution demo request, which is the right conversion point. Now, if you think about it, let's just take the average. The normal average that I see is 7, but for sake of round numbers, just to make the point here, let's pretend that the lead to customer conversion rate on a demo request is 10%. Not performance marketing where you drive someone to a demo landing page and convert on them. When they get there on their own, you can use paid to assist that conversion, but you not drive them into the funnel that way. If it's 10% over here and 0.1% over here, you need 100x less leads to hit the same revenue target on the demo request than on the content download on LinkedIn. And so that will start to paint a picture where you only need, if you had 1,000 leads on LinkedIn, you would get more revenue from 15 demo requests. And I really want to paint that picture because the amount of expense that is used to create that metric that closed at 0.1% is a complete waste of money and a complete waste of time. And at big companies, the expenses are very large. And if you took all of that money and did something different, your customers would be happier, your sales team would be happier, your marketing team would be happier, everyone would be happier. But for some reason, we love to go after that metric because it's easy, it's measurable, and it keeps the system running that we have already built, that we are now married to. We have 75 inbound SDRs at our enterprise company. We need to pump as many leads in as possible so that they can follow up with all of them. It's just the truth. And so if you shut that off, there is nothing else for those people to do. You have an outbound SDR team. You have an inbound SDR team. The inbound SDR team would not have any leads, so you actually get stuck. And so those numbers are, if somebody is listening to this podcast and you went in and you looked at your data, you would find something that is not that dramatically different. I talk to people that run these ads at 20 different companies, just like we do, or audit at 20 different companies, just like we look at. And 0.1% is the number. Maybe it's 0.1, maybe it's 0.2, but even at that point, it's just not worth it.
let's close off on this point. I love this. Let's close out on this. Well, this is a great way to end it. You want to talk about correlation does not equal a causation? Here's something that happens a lot. Now, this one is really buggy, but check it out. So what happens when someone actually does download one of those ebooks? They get hit with emails, automated emails from marketing automated communication, email nurtures. And what happens? They'll download that ebook. They'll go through a series of maybe 6 to 8 emails over a period of time. You'll look at the performance of those emails over time. And what will you see? You will see what executives will want to see, or at least like a marketing manager or channel owner of email will want to know what percentage of those ebook downloads got graduated through nurturing and lead scoring to an MQL. That's what they're going to want to know. And why is this a problem? Because if not enough of them get graduated into an MQL, then everyone says, oh, you know what? The emails aren't good enough. We got to redo our nurtures. So then you spend time redoing the emails, trying to make them better. You redo the emails. The ebook downloads go through that same email stream. Then what you end up doing is you're going down this rabbit hole of comparing email stream A to email stream B. The results are pretty much the same. And you wasted a ton of time just focused on the wrong things. Mm-hmm. You spent all that time focused on the wrong things. So it's just a dangerous habit that it's a chain reaction of one set of bad behaviors that essentially creates this chain of reaction of other bad behaviors, which combined together are hugely unproductive and hugely wasteful. So the damage on doing bad marketing actually goes far beyond just the initial bad tactic. It's all the things that go along with that make it even more damaging and detrimental to your bottom line. I mean, I don't know how else. And then, it goes even beyond that. Then they might say, oh, you know what else? I got it, Chris. It wasn't the emails. It wasn't the ebook. It wasn't the targeting. You know what it was? Our lead scoring's all fucked up.
I knew you were going to say that. I was going to jump in and say that.
Lead scoring.
Let's adjust the lead scoring.
Let's adjust the lead scoring, right? Instead of putting 20 points on a click, let's do 40, and this and that and this and that.
And then 20% more people will MQL, and we'll hit our target, and we don't have to touch the emails.
Right.
Our sales reps will have to deal with all the garbage that we just sent them.
Right. Now what happens?
It is a complete mess.
Now the domino effect gets even worse. Now what? Oh, hey, sales team, we got so many more MQLs now for you to sift through. Yeah, more top of funnel. This means better insight into what could come out on the back end. But guess what? Oh, none of them really wanted to talk to you, did they? Because I can guarantee you, every single person on this call right now, I will bet dollars to donuts that not one of you have downloaded an ebook and somewhere along the road after that received such a miraculous automated email from a marketing team that made you say, wow, yeah, whoa, yeah, I do really need this. I really need this. Yes, the email convinced me. Yes. You know those emails that say, hey, Gaetano, as a demand gen marketer, did you know that 41% of this means this happens, and so without our tool you won't be able to fix that? Oh yeah, shit.
Now
Thank God I downloaded this ebook, and thank God I got into this marketing automation stream, because now what I'm going to do is request a demo purely because of
Here's a thing that I'm starting to see, and to be honest, like in 2015, I had a couple times where I was a little guilty of it, where you have an ebook download from 3 years ago and you want to celebrate because you had first touch attribution. And it's true. It happens a lot. Marketers will take credit for it when all you did was get contact 3 years ago and then perpetually claim credit in the future when the ebook actually had zero impact on it. You just like it because you can measure it. And so if the exact same thing and you gave away the ebook and actually had them read it, they might have closed in a year instead of 3 years. You just wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's super interesting. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, let's close out on this note.
Yeah, let's do it.
Of course, death to ebooks, is kind of the theme right now, but here's the reality check. It's just not the way people consume content anymore. Everyone's got low attention spans. Everyone's super busy. Everyone's got, I don't even know what to call this, Chris, but that syndrome where you go through this rotation of check Instagram, check LinkedIn, check Twitter, check Facebook, check email, check Slack, check text, check this, check that. So you go into this, check Asana, right? Check Salesforce. Then you go into this like circle of just like you're checking. And, the problem is that because we're in this new way of this is just the way people are now. Everyone's so distracted. No one really has the discipline to block all that off and just take out an ebook and read it. Like they just don't have the discipline. The people that actually stop and block all that shit off and read, they read actual books. Like long form shit, they read books by people like Ray Dalio and fucking the other guy that I just was reading his shit the other day, Chris Voss. Never Split the Difference, and like really expert, deep level expertise stuff written by people who are like known for that thing, because they're willing to say, I need to block all this distraction off to better myself and read this very important high value content. No one in the world is downloading an ebook from some random SaaS company and saying, you know what, I need to stop all my plans tonight. I need to shut off Instagram. I need to shut off LinkedIn. I just need to get under a microscope and read this ebook. It just doesn't happen. So
I have a question though. It is going to be very interesting to see this response more just for market research. And so I have a bunch of people on the gallery here. The question is, if Gaetano and I wrote an ebook, would you read it? Thumbs up or down. I just want to see. It's just super interesting. Oh, we got an if. Yes. Right. And so it's weird because it's partially about how it's consumed, but it's also partially about the intent of the execution. Everyone in this room knows that if I wrote an ebook, I'm not going to cold call you the next day. But for a lot of other companies, it's not like that. And a lot of people don't do that running through paid social. And so I think it's an interesting nuance, because I can see in areas where it actually could work, but for most companies, based on how they execute it and how they measure it, it will never work. If you're measuring an ebook on leads, it's the wrong way to look at it.
Dude, I love what you just said, because it's the whole context behind it all. But imagine if companies said, the way we're going to measure whether or not ebook production was a success is by adding a comment section or allowing commentary within certain text, kind of how Medium does, where you can highlight something and leave a comment on it, or take a snippet of a highlight and then tweet that snippet, which links back to the asset. That to me would be significantly better than gating it and requiring an email address, compared to all we want to optimize for is engagement, like comments, like, and then like, imagine when you're promoting the ebook saying, instead of gating this and doing what every other company does, we just really want you to check this out. And if you liked it, tell us what your favorite part was in the comments, or highlight your favorite part and tweet it or something like that. That to me would be far more effective. I know, of course, that you love the average time on page metric. I love that too. That's a great one. Hot jarring it and looking at like, where does the mouse hover over? Where does that drive people's attention? All those sorts of things would be better ways than just, hey, give me your email address and let me try to spam you after.
I think we're done. But that was great. I mean, people that have been here for a while, you hear us talk about the ebook, and as I start to like unpack it in my brain, content marketing is about your intent. And I know I've said this a lot, but I just want to remind people, if your intent is to drive leads, oftentimes you're not going to create good content, because you're going to create it for you, not for the person who's reading it. And so I just want to like kind of close it out there. When I made that switch in my mind, where like, I'm just doing this for you, both for my company and for companies I worked at before. Like that is the gateway. If you can get over that and really be like, how do I posted about it today. I don't want to go on another rant because we're way over time and people need to get to bed around here. But I posted about this morning, like it is really, really hard to create a podcast that, if you're selling to CIOs, that CIOs are excited to, on their Saturday morning walk with their dog, listen to the podcast. It's hard. And so the same thing would go for an ebook or a LinkedIn post or anything. Like that is the step that I think a lot of people need to get over in content. Otherwise, you're just creating vanilla stuff and the content's not going to resonate. I think a lot of companies fall into that camp because they don't have a true perspective.
I love it, man.
All right.
More to add.
Well, we had a couple people visit from like Australia or something like that, so they're just starting their day. Somebody woke up from Melbourne this morning and interviewed me for a podcast at 4 a.m. Kudos to that guy, John. So yeah, I'm good. Everyone, thanks for sticking around. Gee, you got anything to send us to bed?
I mean, just have a great week, everybody. Thank you again for tuning back in. It's always a pleasure to hang out with everyone and chop it up. Get in there, talk about all these fun topics. Like Chris said, a lot of the topics seem to just keep having these recurring themes, and I guess that's a good thing. So it means we're consistent enough to keep it going.
Oh yeah. Cool. I could talk forever. I'm feeling good, but I'm going to let everyone go. So I'm really happy to see you all here again. We'll be back next Tuesday, same time. Appreciate you all. Hope you have a great rest of your week.
Later, guys. See y'all. Peace.
Good night.